Hollywood loves ancient Rome. The epic battles, the grand speeches, the glistening marble cities. But how much of what we see on screen is real, and how much is pure myth? Today, we're peeling back the layers of legend to uncover the truth about the Roman Empire. Get ready, because some of these facts might just blow your mind. Let's start with the big one: gladiators. We picture them as muscle-bound superstars fighting to the death for a cheering crowd. And yes, gladiatorial combat was a brutal reality, but it wasn't always a fight to the death. Gladiators were expensive assets. They were highly trained athletes, almost like modern-day professional fighters. Their owners invested a lot of money in their training and upkeep, so they didn't want to lose them in every single match. Most fights were refereed and ended when one combatant was wounded or surrendered. The famous thumbs-down gesture? Historians are still debating its true meaning. It might have meant swords down, signaling for the gladiator to be spared. So, while death was a constant risk, it wasn't the guaranteed outcome we see in movies. Now, let's talk about the look of Rome itself. In films, we see a pristine city of gleaming white marble. It's beautiful, but it's not accurate. The Romans loved color, a lot of it. Their statues and buildings weren't left as plain white marble. They were painted in vibrant, almost gaudy colors. Imagine the Forum, not as a sterile white monument, but as a dazzling explosion of red, blue, gold, and green. It would have been an overwhelming and magnificent sight. A far cry from the serene ruins we see today. The statues of emperors and gods, which we admire for their classical purity, would have looked almost lifelike, with painted eyes, hair, and clothing. It was a world saturated with color. What about the emperors themselves? They're often portrayed as either noble philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, or deranged tyrants like Caligula and Nero. It's a perfect symbol of Roman decadence. But it's completely false. A vomitorium was simply an entrance or exit passageway in a Roman amphitheater or theater. The name comes from the Latin word vomere, which means to spew forth. It was named this because the passageways allowed the huge crowds to spew forth from the venue quickly after a show. So, no special puke rooms, just very efficient crowd control. Let's consider the daily life of an average Roman. It wasn't all orgies and political intrigue. For most people, life was hard. The magnificent city of Rome was also crowded, noisy, and unsanitary. Most of its 1 million inhabitants lived in cramped, poorly built apartment blocks called insulae, which were prone to fires and collapse. The streets were filled with filth, and disease was rampant. While the wealthy enjoyed running water in their villas, the poor had to fetch water from public fountains and use public latrines. It was a tough existence, a world away from the luxurious lifestyle we associate with the Roman elite. And the famous phrase, "Et tu, Brute," supposedly Caesar's last words as he was assassinated. It's dramatic, it's personal, it's the ultimate betrayal. Shakespeare made it famous, but did Caesar actually say it? The Roman historian Suetonius, writing over a century later, reports that Caesar's last words were more likely the Greek phrase "kai su, teknon," which means "you too, my child." And even that is debated. Other sources say he died without saying a word, pulling his toga over his head in a final act of dignity. The Shakespearean line is pure theatrical genius, but probably not historical fact. Even the fall of Rome is shrouded in myth. We often hear a simple story. Barbarian hordes swarmed over the borders and sacked the city, and the empire collapsed overnight. The reality was a much slower, more complicated process that unfolded over centuries. It was a combination of economic instability, political corruption, overexpansion, civil wars, and yes, pressure from migrating peoples whom the Romans called barbarians. Let us know in the comments which myth surprised you the most. See you next time.